My son texted me, "Don't come for Christmas. My wife doesn't want to see you." I stopped paying their rent. A month later, he showed up at my door. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I used to think family was everything. For 62 years, I'd built my life around that belief. Raised 3 children as a single mother after my husband died, worked double shifts at the hospital, saved every penny. My youngest son, Derek, was always my gentle one, the boy who brought me wildflowers, who called every Sunday without fail. When he met Jennifer at his corporate job 3 years ago, I was happy for him. A successful marketing executive, polished and articulate. She seemed perfect. The wedding was beautiful. I'd contributed $20,000, nearly wiping out my savings. For my baby boy's special day, I'd told them, watching Jennifer's practiced smile. She'd hugged me, called me Mom, promised we'd always be close. I wanted to believe her. The first crack appeared 6 months after the wedding. Derek's Sunday calls became sporadic, then stopped. When I reached out, Jennifer answered his phone. "He's busy, Mom," she'd say, her voice syrupy. "You understand?" I didn't, but I tried. Young couples needed space, right? Then came the apartment situation. They'd moved to an expensive neighborhood in downtown Seattle, far beyond Derek's salary range. When Derek called asking for help with rent, my stomach dropped. "Just temporarily," he assured me. "Jennifer's promotion is coming through." I should have said no, but how do you refuse your child? That temporary help became permanent. $1,500 a month, every month for 18 months, $27,000. I picked up extra nursing shifts, canceled my own plans. My retirement account shrunk. When I gently asked about the promotion, Derek grew defensive. "Mom, you don't understand the pressure we're under. Jennifer's working so hard." Was she? I'd seen her Instagram, daily Pilates classes, expensive brunches, designer bags. But I swallowed my questions, kept paying. The second crack: family gatherings. Jennifer always had excuses. Thanksgiving, she'd booked a spa weekend. Easter, her parents needed them. My birthday? "We're just so overwhelmed, Mom." Derek's voice sounded hollow, rehearsed, like he was reading from a script she'd written. I started noticing other things. How Derek flinched when Jennifer entered rooms. How his clothes looked cheaper while hers got more expensive. How he'd start to tell me something, then stop mid-sentence, glancing toward her. "Are you happy, honey?" I'd asked him once during a rare moment alone. His smile hadn't reached his eyes. "Of course, Mom. Why wouldn't I be?" But I'd raised him. I knew when my son was lying. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. November 15th, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I was preparing my famous pumpkin pie recipe, Derek's favorite since childhood, when my phone buzzed. A text message from Derek. "Don't come for Christmas. Jennifer doesn't want you here." No explanation, no phone call. Just those 8 words that felt like a knife between my ribs. My hands shook as I called him. It rang once before going to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. She'd made him block me. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd fed him breakfast before school, helped with homework, celebrated his college acceptance, and felt something inside me crack wider. Not sadness. Not anymore. Anger. Cold, crystalline anger. I pulled up my banking app and stared at the automatic payment scheduled for December 1st. $1,500. Payment number 19. I thought about all those shifts, my aching feet, missed holidays, the retirement I was supposed to be enjoying. For what? To be discarded like trash? To be blocked by my own son? My finger hovered over the cancel payment button. How had it come to this? When had my generous son become this stranger who let his wife dictate who deserved basic respect? When had I become so desperate for his love that I'd funded my own exclusion from his life? I thought about calling again, begging, explaining that I just wanted to see him, that I missed him, that family should mean something, but I'd done enough begging. I pressed cancel. Then I canceled the automatic payment entirely. If Jennifer wanted to isolate my son, she could do it without my money. If Derek wanted to choose her over his mother, over the woman who'd sacrificed everything for him, he could face the consequences of that choice. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Derek's number, but I knew it wasn't him writing. "We need to talk about boundaries. You're too involved in our lives." I laughed, a bitter, broken sound in my empty kitchen. Too involved? I was paying their rent. Not anymore. The first night after canceling the payment, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through calculations I should have done months ago. $27,000. $27,000 that could have been my new roof, the one that leaked every time it rained. That could have been the hip replacement my doctor recommended. That could have been visiting my daughter in Arizona, meeting my other grandchildren more than once a year. Instead, it had funded Jennifer's lifestyle while she systematically erased me from my son's life. I got up at 3 a.m. and spread my bank statements across the dining table. The evidence was worse than I'd thought. Beyond the rent, there were emergency transfers, $800 for car repairs that I now suspected never happened, $1,200 for medical bills when Derek's insurance should have covered everything, $600 for work clothes for Jennifer's important meetings, $37,000 total. My hands trembled as I highlighted each transaction. I'd been so stupid, so desperate to stay connected to my son, that I'd let them bleed me dry. But this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about what Jennifer had done to Derek, turning my kind, thoughtful boy into someone who could send that text message without even a phone call. That's when the fear crept in. What if Derek never spoke to me again? What if I lost him forever? He was my son, my baby. Despite everything, I loved him. But love without respect was just enabling, and I'd enabled this situation long enough. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to apologize for stopping payments I should never have started. I was going to document everything, prepare for whatever came next, and, most importantly, I was going to find out exactly what Jennifer had been doing with my money. The first step was easy. I called my bank and requested detailed transaction records for the past 2 years. "I need everything," I told the representative. "Dates, amounts, notation fields. I'm building a case." "A case?" she asked carefully. "Family matter," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I need to protect my assets. While waiting for the records, I did something I wasn't proud of but couldn't avoid. I logged into Derek's old email account, the one he'd set up in high school and probably forgotten about, but that still forwarded copies of his financial alerts. I'd set it up years ago to help him track his student loans, and he'd never changed the password. What I found made my blood run cold. Credit card bills. Thousands of dollars charged to cards I didn't even know existed. Luxury retailers, high-end restaurants, spa packages, all under Derek's name, but the billing address was their apartment, the apartment I was paying for. And the payment history? Minimum payments, barely keeping them afloat. They weren't just living beyond their means. They were drowning in debt. My $1,500 a month wasn't helping them get ahead. It was barely keeping them from going under. And Jennifer, based on the merchant names, was spending like she had unlimited funds. My son was in financial ruin, and I'd been unknowingly funding the woman who'd orchestrated it. I screenshot everything, created a folder on my computer. Derek, financial documentation. Backed it up to a flash drive. This wasn't paranoia. This was preparation. That afternoon, I called my friend Margaret, who'd gone through a messy situation with her own daughter-in-law years ago. I need advice, I told her, my voice cracking slightly. Not emotional advice. Practical advice. Margaret didn't sugarcoat it. Document everything, every text, every payment, every interaction. If this gets ugly, and it probably will, you need evidence. And Rita, you need to accept that Derek might hate you for this. He might choose her. I know, I whispered. But here's what you need to understand. If you don't act now, you'll lose him anyway. He'll just take your money while he goes down. Sometimes the hardest thing a mother can do is let her child face consequences. After we hung up, I drafted a careful text message to Derek. I love you. I will always love you, but I can't continue the current financial arrangement. The December payment has been canceled. If you want to talk, I'm here. But I won't communicate through Jennifer anymore. This is between us. Mom. I read it 50 times before sending. His response came 3 hours later. You're really doing this before Christmas? My heart broke a little, but I typed back, You really uninvited your mother to Christmas via text? No response. The silence was answer enough. I sat in my kitchen, the winter sun setting early, and realized I'd just crossed a line. There was no going back now. Either Derek would wake up and see what Jennifer was doing, or I'd lose him completely. But at least I'd stop losing myself. 3 days after I sent that text, I made an appointment with an attorney. Not because I wanted to sue my own son. God, the thought made me sick. But because I needed to understand my legal position. What if they tried to claim I'd promised them money indefinitely? What if Jennifer convinced Derek to take legal action against me? I chose Patricia Hendricks from the recommendations Margaret gave me. Her office was modest but professional, and she listened without judgment as I laid out everything. The payments, the texts, the credit card debt I'd discovered. Do you have any written agreements about this money? Patricia asked, her pen poised over her notepad. No, it was family help, verbal only. Good. That means legally it was a gift. You have no obligation to continue. She leaned forward. But Rita, I need to ask, are you prepared for them to fight back? Because they will. People who've been receiving money for this long don't let it go easily. What can they do? Harassment? Manipulation. They might threaten you, spread stories to other family members, try to paint you as the villain. Your son might say terrible things to you. Can you handle that? Could I? I thought about Derek's little boy face, how he'd held my hand crossing streets, how he'd cried in my arms when his father died. But that boy was gone. The man who'd sent that Christmas text was someone I didn't recognize. I can handle it, I said. What I can't handle is watching this continue. Patricia nodded approvingly. Then here's what we do. First, I'm going to draft a formal letter documenting that all financial support has ended as of December 1st. This protects you legally. Second, I want you to keep recording everything. Texts, calls if you record them with notification, emails. Washington is a two-party consent state, so be careful. Third, do not engage in hostile communication. Stay factual, stay calm. What if they show up at my house? Document it. If they become threatening, call the police. I know that sounds extreme. It doesn't, I interrupted. Not anymore. I paid her retainer from my dwindling savings and left with a folder of documents and a strange sense of relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I was protecting myself. The letter went out certified mail on December 5th. I tracked it obsessively. Delivered December 7th, signature required, Derek signed for it himself. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then, on December 9th, my phone exploded. 7 missed calls from Derek's number. Then Jennifer's number, one I'd deleted but still recognized. Then Derek again. Text messages flooded in. How could you do this? We're going to lose our apartment. You're destroying our lives. Is this about Christmas? Are you really that petty? I sat on my hands to keep from responding immediately. Patricia had been clear. Don't react emotionally. Let them spiral. But the messages got worse. Jennifer's pregnant. You're going to let your grandchild be homeless? That one hit like a punch. Pregnant? My first thought was joy, then immediate suspicion. It was too convenient, too perfectly timed. I called Patricia. They're claiming she's pregnant. Manipulation tactic. Even if it's true, it doesn't obligate you to financial support. Stay firm. That evening, Derek called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. Hello? Mom? His voice was ragged. Please, we need to talk. Can I come over? This was it. The moment I'd been dreading and hoping for. Is Jennifer coming with you? No, just me. Please, Mom. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Come alone, Derek. I mean it. I will. He hung up before I could say anything else. I spent the entire night preparing. I printed every bank statement, every screenshot of the credit card bills, every text message. I arranged them chronologically in a binder. Evidence. Proof that I wasn't the villain here. But I also made his favorite cookies. Because despite everything, he was still my son. Derek arrived at exactly 2 p.m., looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, an air of desperation that made my heart ache. He'd lost weight. When had he lost so much weight? Mom, he started, but I raised my hand. Before we talk, I need you to look at something. I placed the binder in front of him. I need you to see what I've seen. Then we can talk. He opened it reluctantly. I watched his face as he flipped through pages. Confusion, then recognition, then horror. He'd reached the credit card statements, the charges Jennifer had been hiding from him. Derek, I said gently, where did you think the money was going? His hands were shaking. She said she was paying down her student loans, that once they were clear, we'd be fine, that your help was just temporary. Look at the merchants, honey. His finger traced down the list. Saks, Nordstrom, $200 hair appointments, restaurants I couldn't pronounce. Oh God, he whispered. Oh God, what has she done? Derek sat at my kitchen table for 3 hours that afternoon, his head in his hands, occasionally looking up at the evidence I'd compiled like he couldn't quite believe it was real. I made him coffee, then tea when the coffee went cold. I didn't push him to talk. I just let him process. I need copies of all this, he finally said, his voice hollow. I need to see our actual bank accounts, together, without her there. You have online access? She changed the password 6 months ago. Said she was streamlining our finances. I was so busy at work, He looked at me with devastated eyes. Mom, how did I let this happen? Manipulation is slow, I said gently. It doesn't happen all at once. It's little compromises, little changes, until one day you wake up and don't recognize your own life. He nodded slowly. I need to go to the bank tomorrow. Get new login credentials. She can't know I'm doing this yet. Derek, listen to me carefully. If she's been hiding this much, you need to protect yourself legally. Talk to a lawyer before you confront her. Confront her? He laughed bitterly. I have to divorce her, Mom. I have to. God, how did I marry someone like this? We talked until sunset. I fed him dinner, real food, not the takeout containers I suspected filled his life now. He told me everything. How Jennifer had slowly isolated him from friends, always with reasonable excuses. How she'd convinced him I was overbearing and controlling, How every time he questioned an expense, she'd cry or get angry or make him feel like he was attacking her during a difficult time. "And the pregnancy?" I had to ask. His jaw tightened. "There is no pregnancy. There hasn't been. We haven't been intimate in 4 months, Mom. She just knew that would make you feel guilty." The manipulation was even worse than I'd thought. Derek left at 8 p.m. with copies of everything, a plan to visit the bank, and the number for Patricia Hendricks. He hugged me at the door. Really hugged me. Not the stiff, obligatory embraces of the past 2 years. "I'm sorry, Mom," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. We'll fix this," I promised. "Together." But I'd underestimated Jennifer. 2 days later, she appeared at my door. I opened it to find her perfectly made-up designer purse over her shoulder, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Rita, we need to talk." "I have nothing to say to you, Jennifer." "Oh, I think you do." She pushed past me into my house, and turned to face me. "Derek told me about your little evidence collection. Very resourceful. But here's what you don't understand. If you pursue this, if you turn my husband against me, I will destroy you." My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. "Get out of my house." "Not until you understand the situation. I have texts from Derek saying terrible things about you. I have recordings of him complaining about how demanding you are. I'll make sure every member of your family knows what a controlling, manipulative mother you are. Your daughter, your other grandchildren, they'll never want to see you again. Those recordings would be illegal in Washington state without consent." Her smile faltered slightly. "You've been talking to lawyers. How clever. But Rita, lawyers cost money. Can you really afford a legal battle? You're already so financially strained from being such a generous mother." The mockery in her voice made my blood boil, but I thought of Patricia's advice. Stay calm. Stay factual. "Jennifer, you have 30 seconds to leave my house before I call the police. And tell them what? That your daughter-in-law came to talk. Please." But she was moving toward the door. "Derek won't leave me. Even if he sees those records, even if he knows everything. He won't leave. He's too weak. He needs someone to make decisions for him. That's what you never understood about your precious son. He's pathetic. Get out." She left, her heels clicking on my porch, but turned back at her car. "Oh, and Rita? That $1,500 a month? Consider it back rent for all the years you tried to control Derek's life. We earned every penny." I closed the door and locked it, my hands shaking. Then I immediately called Derek. "She was just here. She threatened me." "What? Mom, I'm coming over." "No, stay where you are. I'm fine. But Derek, she's dangerous. You need to move faster on this." "I met with your lawyer today. She's drawing up separation papers. Mom, I'm moving out this weekend. Can I stay with you for a while?" "Always, honey. Always." After Derek hung up, I poured myself a rare glass of wine and sat in the silence of my home. My hands were still trembling slightly. Jennifer's words echoed. "He's pathetic. We earned every penny." But she'd made a mistake. She'd shown her true face, and she'd done it in a moment of panic, which meant Derek's actions were working. She was scared. Good. I took the next 3 days off from work, something I never did. I needed to rest, to prepare emotionally for what was coming. I gardened, read books, took long baths. I called my daughter in Arizona and told her everything. She was appalled, but supportive. "Mom, I'm proud of you," she said. That took courage. Courage. I'd never thought of it that way. But maybe standing up to your own child's terrible choices was the hardest kind of courage there was. By the time Derek showed up on Saturday morning with 2 suitcases and a broken expression, I was ready. Derek moved into my guest room on Saturday afternoon. Watching him unpack his meager belongings, she'd kept everything else, he said, to avoid a scene broke my heart. This was my son who'd once had his own apartment, his own life, his own confidence. Now he was starting over at 34 with 2 suitcases and a broken marriage. But he was safe. That's what mattered. The first few days were quiet. Derek went to work, came home exhausted, and we'd eat dinner together like we used to when he was young. He didn't talk much about Jennifer, but I could see him processing, slowly emerging from the fog she'd kept him in. Then, on Wednesday evening, Jennifer started her campaign. It began with text messages to Derek's phone, which he'd shown me because we'd agreed on complete transparency. "Baby, I miss you. Please come home. I know your mom is poisoning you against me. I'm sorry about the credit cards. I have a shopping addiction. I'll get help. I can't believe you're choosing her over your wife." Each message more manipulative than the last. Derek's jaw tightened as he read them, but he didn't respond. Patricia had advised him, no contact except through lawyers. But Jennifer wasn't done. On Thursday, she called me from a blocked number. I'd been expecting it and recorded the call with the automated notification that Washington law required. "Rita, this is cruel. He's my husband. And he's my son. He made his choice, Jennifer. Because you manipulated him. You showed him things out of context. Those credit card bills, I can explain all of them. Then explain them to a judge during divorce proceedings." Her voice changed, softened, became almost pleading. "Please. I know we got off on the wrong foot. I know I made mistakes. But I love Derek. I really do. Can't we work this out? All of us like a family?" It was a good performance. If I hadn't seen her venomous face at my door, hadn't heard her call my son pathetic, I might have wavered. "No, Jennifer. Rita, I'm begging you, mother to future mother." A calculated pause. "I know I lied about being pregnant before, but I'm not lying now. I found out yesterday. I'm 6 weeks pregnant. That's Derek's child. You'd really keep a father from his baby?" My blood ran cold, but my voice stayed calm. If that's true, Derek will support his child through proper legal channels and custody arrangements, not by being trapped in an abusive relationship. Abusive? I never touched him. Abuse isn't just physical, Jennifer, and you know it. She hung up. I immediately called Derek at work and told him everything. "She's lying," he said flatly. "I told you, Mom. We haven't. It's not possible. She's desperate. What if she's not lying? What if she's pregnant with someone else's child?" The silence on the line was heavy. "Then I guess we'll find out soon enough." That evening, Jennifer tried a different approach. She showed up at Derek's office building, waiting in the parking garage. He called me from his car, shaken. "She's crying, saying she'll change, that she'll pay you back every penny, that she just wants me to come home for one dinner to talk." "What did you tell her?" "I said to contact my attorney, but Mom, she looked so broken. What if I'm wrong? What if she really will change?" Here was the test. The moment where Jennifer's years of manipulation could still work. Where my son's compassion, the quality I'd raised him to have, could be weaponized against him. "Derek, listen to me. People who genuinely want to change don't ambush you in parking garages. They don't lie about pregnancies. They don't threaten your mother. They respect boundaries and work through proper channels. Jennifer isn't sorry she did these things. She's sorry she got caught. I know you're right. It's just hard." "I know it is, honey. But you're doing the right thing." After that call, I realized Derek needed more support than just me. He needed to know he wasn't alone, that his decision was valid. I reached out to his old friends, the ones Jennifer had slowly phased out over the years. I called Tom, his college roommate, and explained everything. Tom was furious. "We tried to tell him," Tom said, 2 years ago. She threw a fit. and Derek stopped returning our calls. Can I see him? He'd like that, I think. Tom came over that Friday night, bringing their mutual friend, Marcus. The three of them sat in my living room, drinking beer, talking. I heard Derek laugh, really laugh, for the first time in months. Man, we missed you, Marcus said. We thought we'd lost you. You almost did, Derek admitted quietly. Later that night, after his friends left, Derek hugged me in the kitchen. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. Never, I whispered. I could never. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt hope. Derek was building a support system. He was seeing clearly. Jennifer's manipulation was losing its power. But I knew this was just the eye of the storm. She wouldn't give up this easily. She'd try again, probably harder. But this time, Derek would be ready. And so would I. Sunday afternoon, 2 weeks after Derek moved in, the doorbell rang while we were making lunch together. I looked through the peephole and froze. Jennifer stood on my porch, but she wasn't alone. A middle-aged woman stood beside her, well-dressed, carrying a casserole dish, smiling warmly. Jennifer's mother. Derek, I called. Your mother-in-law is here with Jennifer. His face went white. I'm not talking to her. I know. Stay here. I opened the door but kept the screen locked. Hello, Jennifer. Mrs. Patterson. Jennifer's mother, Carol, stepped forward with her practiced smile. Rita, please. We just want to talk. No drama, no fighting. We're family, aren't we? She lifted the casserole. I brought lunch. Can we come in? Every instinct screamed no, but I was curious. What was Jennifer's strategy now? You can come in, Carol. Jennifer stays on the porch. Rita, that's hardly... Carol began. Those are my terms. Jennifer's mask slipped for a moment, a flash of rage, then smoothed again. It's fine, Mom. Go ahead. I'll wait out here. Red flag. She was letting her mother do the manipulation. I opened the door for Carol, watching Jennifer carefully as she settled onto my porch chair, pulling out her phone with exaggerated patience. Carol set the casserole on my counter with the familiarity of someone who belonged, which immediately irritated me. Rita, Derek, thank you for seeing me. I know this situation has become complicated. Complicated, Derek repeated flatly. Is that what we're calling fraud and manipulation now? Carol's smile stiffened. Derek, honey, I think there's been some misunderstanding. Jennifer made some mistakes with money, yes, but marriages go through rough patches. You work through them. You don't just abandon your wife because things get difficult. She stole from my mother, Derek said. $37,000. Stole? That's a strong word. Your mother gave that money willingly. Jennifer may have mismanaged it. May have, I interrupted. Carol, I showed Derek the credit card statements, the luxury purchases, the spa treatments, the shopping sprees, all while they were supposedly struggling with bills. Carol waved her hand dismissively. Jennifer has always liked nice things. Is that a crime? She works hard. She deserves to treat herself. And Rita, with all due respect, you offered that money. No one forced you. The gaslighting was masterful. Make me doubt my own reality, my own generosity twisted into obligation. I offered temporary help, I said carefully, not permanent funding for a lifestyle she couldn't afford. But that's what mothers do, isn't it? Carol's smile was sharp now. We help our children. We support them through difficult times. Unless, she turned to Derek, unless we're using money to control them, to make them dependent on us, to keep them from their wives. That's not what happened, Derek said, but I heard the doubt creeping into his voice. Years of Jennifer's conditioning, reinforced now by her mother. Carol stood, moving to Derek, placing a maternal hand on his shoulder. Honey, I know your mother means well, but has she always been a bit much? Always in your business? Jennifer told me how Rita used to call you multiple times a day, how she'd get upset if you didn't visit enough. That's not healthy, Derek. That's a lie, I said coldly. Derek called me before Jennifer isolated him. Isolated? Carol laughed. Or maybe he naturally grew apart from an overbearing mother? Darling, I've seen this pattern before. Mothers who can't let go, who sabotage their sons' marriages because they're jealous of being replaced. Is that what this is really about, Rita? You couldn't stand that Derek chose Jennifer over you? The psychological manipulation was breathtaking. Every truth inverted, every action reframed. And I could see it working on Derek, just slightly. The old conditioning making him question himself. No, I said firmly. This is about financial abuse and manipulation. This is about Jennifer lying, stealing, and systematically destroying Derek's life. And you, Carol, knew about it. You raised her. You taught her these tactics. Carol's mask finally dropped. Her eyes went cold. You self-righteous bitch. You think you're so superior with your martyr routine? You think Derek will choose you? He won't. He'll crawl back to Jennifer within a month because he can't function without someone taking care of him. You ruined him, raising him to be weak. Jennifer was trying to fix your mistakes. Get out, Derek said quietly, standing. Get out of my mother's house. Derek, now! His voice cracked with fury. You come here pretending to make peace and you insult my mother? You defend Jennifer stealing from us? Get out! Carol grabbed her purse, her composure shattered. You'll regret this, both of you. Jennifer has lawyers too, and evidence of Rita's controlling behavior. We'll take everything in the divorce, every penny Derek has. You'll both be sorry. She stormed out. Through the window, I watched her grab Jennifer's arm and practically drag her to the car. Jennifer looked back at my house, and the expression on her face was pure hatred. Not sadness, not love, just cold, calculating hatred. After they left, Derek sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. She almost had me, Mom. For a second there, I almost believed I was the problem. I sat beside him, my own hands shaking. That's what they do, honey. They make you doubt reality. I was scared, he admitted. When Carol started talking, I felt like maybe I was crazy. Maybe I was wrong about everything. That's called gaslighting, and it's terrifying, but you saw through it. He looked at me with exhausted eyes. What if they come back? What if this gets worse? I thought about Carol's threats, Jennifer's face, the legal battles they were promising. Fear rippled through me. But underneath the fear was something stronger, something cold and determined. Let them come, I said. We have truth on our side. And I'm done being afraid of bullies. Derek nodded slowly. Me too, Mom. Me too. But I saw him double-check the door locks that night, and I found myself doing the same. The court date for the preliminary divorce hearing arrived on a gray January morning. Derek's attorney, Patricia, had referred him to a family law specialist named Robert Chen, had warned us that Jennifer would make a scene. She'd filed counterclaims, emotional abuse, financial abandonment, undue influence from me. All lies, but lies that had to be addressed. I wasn't required to attend, but Derek asked me to come. I need you there, Mom. So I sat in the courthouse hallway, watching Jennifer arrive with Carol and a lawyer whose expensive suit screamed money. Jennifer had dressed carefully, modest clothing, minimal makeup, the perfect image of a wounded wife. She didn't look at me. The proceedings were supposed to be routine, division of assets, temporary support arrangements, scheduling. But Robert had prepared a surprise. He'd subpoenaed Jennifer's bank records, her credit card statements, even her employment verification. When we entered the courtroom, Judge Morrison, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the files with careful attention. Jennifer's lawyer stood confidently. Your Honor, my client simply wants a fair division of marital assets. Unfortunately, Mr. Garrett has abandoned the marriage under the influence of his mother, who has a documented history of controlling behavior. Mr. Chen? Judge Morrison looked at Derek's attorney. Your response? Robert stood calmly. Your Honor, I have extensive documentation showing Ms. Patterson systematically defrauded both her husband and his mother over an 18-month period. With your permission, I'd like to present evidence. Proceed. What followed was devastating. Robert methodically presented every credit card statement, every luxury purchase, every forged signature on joint account withdrawals that Derek never authorized. He showed the timeline of how Jennifer had changed banking passwords, how she'd intercepted mail, how she'd created a pattern of financial abuse while accepting money from me under false pretenses. Jennifer's face grew progressively paler. Her lawyer kept objecting, but the evidence was overwhelming. Then Robert delivered the killing blow. Your Honor, we also have Ms. Patterson's social media records. Posts showing luxury vacations, designer purchases, expensive restaurants, all time-stamped during periods when she was telling Mrs. Garrett and her husband that they were struggling financially and needed assistance. He projected Instagram images onto the courtroom screen. Jennifer at a 5-star resort. Jennifer with shopping bags from stores that cost more than Derek's monthly salary. Jennifer at a spa with the caption, "Treating myself because I deserve it," all dated within the period she was taking my money. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. Miss Patterson, stand please. Jennifer stood shakily. The confident mask was crumbling. Her hands trembled. Did you or did you not receive approximately $37,000 from your mother-in-law during your marriage? It was a gift, Your Honor, family support. And did you or did you not represent to both your husband and your mother-in-law that this money was needed for essential expenses? We did need it. For rent, Miss Patterson? Or for the $700 handbag you posted about in March? The weekend in wine country in April? The Botox treatments documented in your credit card statements? Jennifer's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, my client's spending habits are not. Your client's spending habits are precisely relevant when she solicited money under false pretenses. Sit down, counselor. Judge Morrison turned back to Jennifer. Ms. Patterson, I've seen many cases in my career. This is one of the clearest examples of financial manipulation I've encountered. You systematically lied to your husband about your employment status. Yes, we verified that the promotion you claimed was pending never existed. You lied about your debt. You lied about your needs, and you financially abused both your husband and his mother. Your Honor, Jennifer's voice cracked. She looked at Carol desperately, but even Carol seemed speechless. Furthermore, Judge Morrison continued, the evidence shows you deliberately isolated Mr. Garrett from his family, controlled his access to marital finances, and when confronted, engaged in harassment and threats. I'm granting Mr. Garrett's petition for divorce. I'm also ordering you to pay back half of the money taken from Mrs. Garrett. That's $18,500, as it was obtained fraudulently. You have 90 days. Jennifer's face went white. I don't have that kind of money. Then I suggest you sell the designer items purchased with it. Additionally, I'm granting Mr. Garrett full access to all marital accounts and awarding him 70% of marital assets due to your fraudulent dissipation of marital funds. This isn't fair. Jennifer's composure finally shattered completely. He abandoned me. His mother poisoned him against me. You can't. Ms. Patterson, I suggest you stop talking before I hold you in contempt. Judge Morrison's voice was ice. This court recognizes financial abuse as domestic violence. You engaged in a calculated pattern of exploitation. You're fortunate Mr. Garrett isn't pressing criminal charges for fraud. Jennifer turned to Derek, tears streaming now. Real tears, not manipulative ones. Tears of rage and defeat. You bastard! You spineless, pathetic mama's boy! I gave you 3 years of my life. 3 years of lying, Derek said quietly. His voice didn't shake. 3 years of manipulation. 3 years of stealing from my mother while telling me she was controlling. I'm done, Jennifer. You'll never do better than me, she screamed. No one will want you. You're nothing without me. Bailiff, Judge Morrison said calmly, please escort Ms. Patterson from the courtroom. As Jennifer was led out, still screaming threats, I watched Carol follow her daughter with a face full of shame. At the door, Carol looked back at me once. No words, just a look that said she knew. She'd known all along what her daughter was. In the hallway afterward, Derek collapsed against the wall, tears finally coming. It's over. It's really over. It's over, I confirmed, holding my son. You're free. Robert shook my hand. Mrs. Garrett, in 30 years of practice, I've never seen someone document a case so thoroughly. You saved your son. I just loved him enough to fight, I said simply. Through the courthouse windows, I could see Jennifer and Carol getting into their car. Jennifer was on her phone, probably calling someone, already spinning a new narrative, finding new victims. But Derek was safe. That's all that mattered. We walked out of that courthouse into the winter sun, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt my son stand up straight. The weight was gone. The fog was lifted. He was himself again. The 90 days Jennifer had to pay restitution came and went. No payment arrived. No contact. No explanation. Her lawyer stopped returning calls. On day 91, Robert Chen filed a motion for contempt of court. She's probably hoping we'll just let it go, Robert explained during our meeting in his office. Derek and I sat across from him, reviewing the next steps. That we'll decide $18,000 isn't worth pursuing, but I recommend we don't let this drop. Absolutely not, Derek said firmly. The transformation in my son over the past 2 months was remarkable. He'd gained back the weight he'd lost, started seeing a therapist, reconnected with old friends. The broken man who'd moved into my guest room was gone. She needs to face real consequences. The court agreed. Judge Morrison issued a bench warrant, and Jennifer was arrested for contempt. She spent 1 night in jail before Carol bailed her out. But the damage was done. Jennifer's carefully constructed image had shattered. Then, the information started coming out through the legal discovery process. Jennifer had quit her job 8 months into the marriage, something she'd hidden from Derek completely. She'd been living entirely off his salary and my money. Her busy work schedule had been an elaborate fiction of fake emails and staged calls. But it got worse. Robert's investigator discovered Jennifer had done this before. A previous boyfriend in California had filed a restraining order against her for financial harassment. Another ex had taken her to small claims court over money she'd borrowed and never repaid. Jennifer Patterson wasn't just a bad wife. She was a professional con artist who targeted kind, successful men. Derek, Robert said carefully, there's something else. Jennifer's social media activity. After the court hearing, she started posting publicly about you. Defamatory statements, accusations of abuse. We can add this to the case. Derek read the posts with a clenched jaw. Jennifer had created a whole narrative online, painting herself as the victim of an abusive husband and his controlling mother. She'd posted pictures of herself crying, written long captions about narcissistic abuse and escaping toxicity. Her followers, people who didn't know the truth, were rallying around her, sending messages of support. She's trying to destroy my reputation, Derek said quietly. Yes, but she's also hanging herself. Every post is documented evidence of harassment, and several people have reached out, people who know the truth. They're willing to testify. One of those people was Tom, Derek's college roommate. She tried this with me too, man, Tom told us over dinner one evening. 3 years ago, before you married her, she cornered me at that party, asked me to invest in her business idea. Wanted $15,000. When I said no, she told Derek I'd made a pass at her, remember? That's why we stopped talking for a while. Derek's face went white. I thought. She said you were inappropriate. I believed her. I know, that's what she does. She isolates her targets, turns them against anyone who might warn them. More stories emerged. Jennifer had borrowed money from Derek's colleagues, never repaying it. She'd returned expensive items she'd made Derek buy, pocketing the cash. She'd even tried to access my personal bank account. The bank caught it and flagged it as potential fraud, but I hadn't known until now that she'd been the one attempting it. The pattern was undeniable. Jennifer wasn't just a manipulative spouse. She was a predator. The final court date for the divorce settlement came in March. Jennifer arrived looking defiant, but I could see the cracks. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced with cheaper versions. Carol wasn't with her this time. Apparently, even Jennifer's mother had reached her limit after learning the full extent of the lies. Judge Morrison reviewed the evidence of Jennifer's continued harassment and her failure to pay restitution. Ms. Patterson, you were given an opportunity to make this right. Instead, you've engaged in a campaign of defamation and harassment. I'm increasing the financial penalty to the full $37,000, plus legal fees. Additionally, I'm granting a restraining order. You are to have no contact with Mr. Garrett or Mrs. Garrett for a period of 5 years. Violation will result in immediate arrest. Jennifer's lawyer tried to object, but even he looked defeated. Your Honor, my client doesn't have the means. Then she can sell her belongings, get a job, and make payments. The court will garnish her wages if necessary. She created this debt through fraud. She will pay it back. The gavel came down, final, absolute. Jennifer stood frozen for a moment, then turned to look at Derek and me. The hatred in her eyes was pure, but underneath it, I saw something else. Defeat. She'd lost everything. Her marriage, her reputation, her financial scheme, her freedom to harass us. I hope you're happy, she said bitterly. I'm at peace, Derek replied calmly. That's better than happy. As we left the courthouse, Robert shook our hands. The divorce is final. The restraining order is in effect. And Mrs. Garrett, you'll start receiving restitution payments within 60 days. They'll be automatically garnished from any employment she gets. This is as complete a victory as I've ever seen. Outside, Derek turned to me, tears in his eyes. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing what I couldn't see, for being strong enough to fight when I was too weak. I hugged my son tightly. That's what mothers do, honey. We protect our children, even from their own mistakes. That evening, we went to dinner with my daughter who'd flown in from Arizona for the final hearing. We celebrated, not Jennifer's defeat, but Derek's freedom, his return to himself. To new beginnings, my daughter toasted. To family, Derek added, looking at me. Real family. I raised my glass, feeling lighter than I had in years. The nightmare was over. Justice had been served, and my son was home. Not in my house. He'd found his own apartment, was rebuilding his life independently, but home in the way that mattered. Back to himself, back to trust, back to the good man I'd raised him to be. Jennifer Patterson was someone else's problem now, or more accurately, she was her own problem, and she'd have 5 years of court-ordered payments to think about what she'd done. As for us, we were finally, truly free. 6 months after the divorce finalized, Derek's life had transformed completely. He'd been promoted at work, moved into a beautiful 1-bedroom apartment downtown, and furnished it with items he chose himself. No expensive nonsense, just comfortable, genuine things that reflected who he actually was. He'd started dating Sarah, a teacher he'd met through Tom. She was kind, financially independent, and encouraged his relationships with family and friends. The first time she came to my house for dinner, she brought flowers and asked genuine questions about my nursing career. No performance, no manipulation, just authentic warmth. Derek had also started therapy, working through the psychological damage. I'm learning about coercive control, he explained. I'm sorry I let her turn me against you. You were a victim, honey. Victims have nothing to apologize for. The restitution payments arrived like clockwork, $300 a month garnished from Jennifer's wages. I used the first payment to fix my roof. With each subsequent payment, I did something for myself. Things I'd deferred for years. You look 10 years younger, Margaret told me during our weekend trip to the coast. She was right. Reclaiming my life had reversed the aging that stress had caused. Meanwhile, I heard about Jennifer's spiraling decline. She'd been evicted from the expensive apartment, moved back in with Carol, but that lasted only 3 months before Carol threw her out after discovering Jennifer had stolen her credit card information. Jennifer's social media presence had become bitter rants about injustice. Her follower count dropped by 80%. The man she'd started dating after the divorce had dumped her when he discovered the restraining order. Without access to victims, Jennifer's life collapsed. She cycled through jobs, unable to keep any position. The woman who'd once presented herself as a high-powered executive was working retail, living in a studio apartment, facing years of garnished wages. Jennifer even attempted to file a lawsuit against me for emotional distress. It was immediately dismissed, and the judge sanctioned her, adding another $1,000 to her debts. But the sweetest victory wasn't Jennifer's downfall. It was watching Derek thrive. It was Sunday dinners filled with laughter. That fall, Derek proposed to Sarah on the beach where we'd scattered his father's ashes. She's nothing like Jennifer, he said. She's real, Mom. Everything is real. That Christmas, the holiday Jennifer had used to hurt me 2 years before, we all gathered at my house. My house was full of noise and love and genuine joy. As we took a family photo, Derek's arm around my shoulder, I thought about how close we'd come to losing this. But we'd fought back, we'd stood firm, and we'd won. Not just in court, in life. So that's my story. A mother who almost lost her son to a con artist, who had to choose between keeping peace and doing what was right. I learned that love sometimes means saying no. That boundaries aren't cruel, they're essential. That financial abuse is real abuse. And that standing up to your own child's terrible choices is one of the hardest, most necessary things a parent can do. If someone in your life is being manipulated, isolated, or financially exploited, don't stay silent. Document everything, set boundaries. Be the voice of reality when they can't see clearly. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destruction. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have cut off the money? Would you have fought for your child? Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more real stories about family, survival, and the courage to stand up for what's right. Thank you for listening. Remember, you teach people how to treat you. Don't let anyone, not even family, abuse your kindness.